One of the great things about being a kid and growing up in the 1970s and 80s was that I got a really good appreciation for how much technology has moved along in today's modern world. There's so many things that we take for granted as being an everyday item, but back when I was a kid was absolutely inconceivable. I remember first going to see Star Wars and seeing the people with the laser guns and thinking how amazing that was. And nowadays you can get a laser mounted on your pistol like it was absolutely nothing. So a lot of kids really don't have an appreciation for what a great tool this is. So this week we're going to talk about weapon-mounted systems for lasers for airsoft. The word laser is an acronym for Light Amplification by Stimulated Emission of Radiation. The idea was first conceived in 1957 at Bell Labs, and in 1960 the Hughes Research Labs created the first functioning laser. But it wasn't until the late 1980s that lasers became practical for use as weapon aiming systems, but they were still fairly large and bulky at that time. In the last 20 years, with advances in semiconductor diodes, lasers are now more practical for use as weapon-mounted aiming systems due to their smaller size and the fact that they use much less power. So what are the things that you're looking for when you go out to buy a laser? Well, the first thing is you want a laser that's capable of being adjusted so that the point that you're aiming at is also the point that the bullet is going to. So when you look at the laser, on the head of it, you'll notice a series of set screws that allow you to change the windage and the elevation, versus the cheaper ones have absolutely no screws on it. So this is in a fixed position. This one is able to be adjusted, so the point that you're aiming at is where your bullet is going to go. One of the least expensive lasers that we have is also probably the best overall value in a laser aiming system. This is the laser aiming module by Double Eagle. This is a full adjustable metal laser system. This is not some plastic piece of junk. This is a full metal laser. It's made out of milled brass. It has an aluminum mounting system which is made out of metal. It also comes with all the accessories like the pressure switch, all the batteries, and the tools to actually mount this on any standard Picatinny rail. You can see the Double Eagle mounts really easily to a standard Picatinny rail, like on the Model 92 Vertec that we've got here. My only real complaint with this is that it's got this like phone cord thing that goes to the pressure pad, so this tends to get in your way and it's kind of bulky for putting it into a holster. But if you can get that pressure pad in a spot where you normally grab the gun, it's very easy to get on target quickly with this system. A more practical use of the Double Eagle laser would be to mount it on a long gun like a rifle or a shotgun. In this case, we've got it on the lower Picatinny rail on an M4. You can see we've led the wire down to the pressure switch on the vertical grip, which basically allows you to grab the thing in a more natural way so that this wire is not interfering with how you normally grab the gun. One thing that's important to consider when you're thinking about mounting a laser on a gun is to try to get the laser as close to the barrel as possible so there's less of a differential between where the bullet is going and where the laser is pointing, since the laser travels in a straight line and the bullet travels in something of an arc. So there's going to be certain points where the laser is going to be either above or below where the bullet is traveling. The closer you can get that laser to the barrel, the less of a differential there's going to be, and the more time that bullet will be closer to where the laser is. We've got a UTG clamp mount on this particular one. This is still the Double Eagle laser. We just clamped it to the barrel, and you'll notice that I clamped it above the barrel in this situation. Some people like to put them on the bottom. I personally like to put it on the top because it's closer to my aiming system up here with the sights. That way, where the sights are aiming and where the laser aiming are very close together. Where if you mount the laser on the bottom, your sights and your laser are about 6 inches apart. So those 2 points will eventually converge at one point, and then they will diverge once you get past that, say at 25 yards. Using this system, they stay much closer together, so your point of aim and where the laser is going are much closer together. Another thing that's important to consider is how you route the wire to your pressure switch so that that wire is tucked in out of the way and it's not going to catch on things like foliage or loose clothing or in tight quarters, so that wire doesn't get caught on something and get pulled off the gun. The other thing that's important to consider is where you put the pressure switch. You want to put it in a place where your hand naturally goes to so that you can automatically get to the switch as quickly as possible, so you're not fumbling around for it in a tight situation. You can go right to the switch and get right on target very quickly. So what if you got a gun like a 1911 that doesn't have a rail on it, but you still want to mount a laser on the gun? Well, NC Star makes a basic universal pistol mount which allows you to mount the laser to the front strap of the trigger guard. Now, I know I've seen some other ones out there that either mount into the grips or the recoil rod or the back of the rear sights, but those are very expensive and probably not very practical for use in airsoft. So if you're a little more budget conscious, you may want to consider the NC Star. It also gives you a good location for the on-off switch, so you can bring it on and off very quickly. And why is that important? Well, if you're entering a darkened room and you have the laser on constantly, the bad guys don't have to look too hard to figure out where you are. They just follow the red line to the guy with the laser. So you want to be able to bring it on and off very quickly so that you're not giving your position away. I should mention that if you're going out to buy accessories like lasers, or if you're going out to buy a gun with the specific intention of mounting a laser on it, it's really important to note that not all rails are created equally. There are some that are just not exactly a Picatinny rail in the size and dimensions on it, and there are some accessories that just are not going to fit onto that rail. This is a WE Tech that's got exactly that kind of situation. We also have a SIG SP2022, which does have a standard Picatinny rail on it, and most accessories will fit on it. Either way, if you're going to shop for a laser, bring your gun with you. That way you can make sure that the mounts will fit onto it. In this case, you would need an adapter to change it over to a Picatinny rail, so that way you're not going to get home and get upset because your laser doesn't fit onto your gun. A great example of a best case scenario when it comes to a rail mounted laser is this Taurus PT247 with an NC Star laser mounted to the lower rail. Now, since this is a standard Picatinny rail, the laser mounts directly to it without any additional accessories. The thing I like is that it's a very flush design, so it doesn't add much to the dimensions of the gun, and it's fairly low profile, so it feels very natural when you're grabbing this gun. The other thing I like is that it has the extra rail on the bottom of it, so if you want to add additional accessories like a flashlight, they bolt right on so that you can go right back to work. So what if you want to step up to the top of the food chain? Well, you may want to consider going with a green laser versus a red laser. So what's the differences, you're probably asking? Well, number one, the green laser is much more expensive. These start at around $100 for the basic model, where the red lasers are much cheaper, starting at about $20 for the basic model. The advantages of the green laser is that they work in direct sunlight, versus the red laser is generally only visible either in darkened rooms or in complete darkness. Now, the advantage of the red laser is that it uses much cheaper batteries. These use the button cell batteries, while these use the photo cell batteries, which are much more expensive. The other advantage of the red laser is that you can use them in some indoor ranges, which ban the green lasers because these can actually cause vision damage. So if you're doing indoor shooting, you may want to consider going with the red laser, and if you're doing outdoor shooting, you may want to go with the green laser. So that's the basics on lasers, but I'm sure, as you imagine, there's a lot more to it. So if you want to get some more specifics on different mounts or different custom accessories that are available for different weapons, feel free to stop in here at the showroom or give us a call. We'll be glad to sit down with you and explain exactly what it is you're getting, so you're not spending too much for something that you really don't need. So until then, we'll see you the next time.